Declare a state of plague. Close the town. This is how the first part of Albert Camus' novel, The Plague, ends. The book is divided into 5 parts, but today we'll only be talking about the first of them. And we'll be breaking down different parts of the book into different videos, since I think if we do that, instead of condensing it all into a single huge video, we can go deeper into the philosophical and cultural context of this amazing book. The book is set in Oran, a part of French Algeria where Camus himself lived for a few months as a journalist and as a worker of the Algerian People's Party in 1937. Camus has a love-hate relationship with this city. He describes it as ugly in the novel, but it's apparent and quite evident that he was struck by its heat, its people, and above all, its culture. As you progress through the novel, it's quite understandable that he was very intimidated by the city, but also very inspired by it. Camus, in writing this novel, almost personifies the city of Oran itself. The city is said to be bleeding, as if the city itself is affected by the plague. The people are dying, rats are showing up everywhere, as I mentioned before, and it's almost as if what was once a very healthy, breathing, but a very humid and hot city is getting sicker by the day. And this affects the characters and the people both inside and outside the city after the city is shut down because of the plague. People inside it miss their loved ones who are outside and stranded outside. They write, but their letters are obviously not delivered to their loved ones because the plague might spread even through letters. So they depend on the guards at the edges of the city to convey messages to their loved ones through word of mouth. But even that is halted after the guards realize the severity of the situation. So this novel, in the first part at least, projects a very haunting outlook of what a pandemic, or in this case an epidemic, can do to a population and its citizens. If you can hear my dog barking in the background, please forgive me. He's probably chasing rats or something. One of the most interesting characters in the first part of the book is Cotard. Now, Cotard is a salesman who attempts suicide, interestingly, in one of the first 10 or 20 pages of the first part of the book. It's a failed suicide attempt, and our protagonist, Dr. Bernard Drew, along with a friend of his, Grant, saves him from this fatal act of desperation. Now, after he's saved by the doctor and his friend, the people notice a sudden change in characteristic by this person. Before, he was a liberal, but now he reads conservative newspapers deliberately in public areas as if to show that he has changed as a person. He dines in expensive restaurants with his friend, Grant, and overall he seems to be needing the validation of other characters, of other people, more and more. He uses the word testify a lot, which I've personally noticed while reading this novel. He uses the word testify to describe what others might feel of him. He repeatedly says that he or she will testify to my good behavior or good morals, and he needs that validation from other people. But also in the first part, this sudden change of personality makes me think, is he happy because he thinks that he's already dead? Is he going to attempt suicide once more? But we are not sure of that because we are going to see that in the second, third, fourth, whatever, the latter parts of the book. But it's a very interesting character, that's for sure. The book itself is not completely serious and somber. It's not completely devoid of humor. Because Camus, I have noticed, has this exceptionally British sense of humor almost, where he addresses the events of this book in an almost careless way, as if he doesn't care. And the narrator himself is unnamed, unidentified, and because he wants to remain anonymous, as he says in the first page of the book. I'll give you an example of the dry humor that I'm talking about. This is the first two sentences of the book, by the way. The peculiar events that are the subject of this history occurred in 1940s in Oran. The general opinion was that they were misplaced there since they deviated somewhat from the ordinary. That's a very mild way to put it. This is a very mild way to put an epidemic which is going to kill thousands of people in your city. It's just a somewhat deviation of the normalcy over there. And it opens with this dry humor which makes you think that it's all going to be all right in some way or the other, and it's going to be a happy ending. But we don't know that for sure, do we? Because people are dying and we don't know what happens next. In conclusion, the first part of this book was amazing. I thought it would be a very boring, dragging commentary on the Nazi occupation of French Algeria in the 1940s. And although it is one, the plague is a personification of, not personification, but it serves as a metaphor for the unjust Nazi occupation of French Algeria. And although the sentence by sentence parallels and metaphors given in the first part of the book is very apparent, it reminds me of Kafka in a way. It's not as if it takes away from the story. It adds to it when you know the context of the novel. So even if you did not know about the historical context of the plague, of the Nazi occupation, of where Camus lived, and of his heritage, of his culture, even if you did not know all that, and if you went into this book thinking it was just a story about an epidemic, which is very unbelievable since this is one of the most famous books of all time, you would still enjoy it just as a normal book. And I think that's what makes this so good, because you don't need so much context for it, which you do need for other philosophical works of this stature. And yeah, stay tuned for more videos of the latter parts of this book, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye bye.